week. Ralph Yarl was shot by a homeowner when he went to the wrong home.
Pastor
He remains
Hatch?
hospitalized. At least 100 civilians have been
I'm doing
killed
well.
in
How are
recent
you?
days in fighting in Sudan. Our Charles de Ledesma reports.
Please pardon the background noise. He needs to come up just a little bit.
Third day of heavy fighting between the army and a powerful rival.
Okay, I can hear him on Facebook.
Okay, you can. That's great.
Airstrikes and
Yes.
Okay,
have intensified in parts of Khartoum, the capital.
Non-profit groups are putting out a call for volunteers. According to a recent survey, volunteer participation dropped 7% in recent years. This is AP News. Four games last night in the NBA as the playoffs heat up. Here's David Schuster with a roundup.
In Memphis, Denny Cap filling us in on the Lakers and the Grizzlies.
Austin Reeves scores 14 of his 23 points in the fourth quarter to help the Lakers stun the Grizzlies 128-112. Reeves' heroics in his playoff debut helped the Lakers in the game on a 30-11 run.
In Milwaukee, Jimmy Butler had 35 points as Miami defeated the Bucks 130-117. In Phoenix, Kawhi Leonard scored 38 points as the LA Clippers beat the Suns 115-110. And in Denver, the Nuggets knocked off Minnesota in the first game in that series.
Former President Bill Clinton and past leaders of the UK and Ireland are gathering in Belfast. 25 years ago, their clout and determination helped Northern Ireland strike a historic peace accord, although Northern Ireland is now locked in a political crisis. I'm Jackie Quinn, AP News.
Oh, Ahmad Jamal died. Oh, wow.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's Progress Talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered snow showers here for today, then mixing with rain late, then becoming all rain. Cloudy skies with a high around 40 degrees. Breezy northwest winds at 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 40. Tonight, decreasing clouds and a low near 33. By Tuesday, sunshine, high 56 degrees. Wednesday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high of 70. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 33.
If you have ever thought about remodeling your bathroom but were worried it would take too long or cost too much, then stop worrying. Right now, Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has designed a collection of high-quality custom products and perfected the one-day remodeling experience so you can enjoy your new bathroom faster than ever before. It's a worry-free bath remodel from the most trusted brand name in the business, Jacuzzi. For a virtual or in-home appointment, call 800-826-9895. That's 800-826-9895. 800-826-9895.
This is an important announcement for anyone who wants health insurance, even if you missed the deadline. Right now, you can get the health insurance you and your family need from top insurance providers, even if you have pre-existing conditions or no insurance at all. The Plus Benefits Health Insurance toll-free number has been extended to help anyone who wants health insurance coverage now, or if you need a better plan or a lower price. Call Plus Benefits Health Insurance now at 800-530-2423. The call is 100% free and the help is real. Call 800-530-2423. That's 800-530-2423.
Get lucky all month long at Hawk Volkswagen Joliet. Save big with invoice pricing. That's right, you pay what we pay and not 1 penny more. Choose from a huge selection in stock and ready to drive home today. Like Tiguan, Taos, Atlas, Atlas Cross Sport, and more. Plus, every new Volkswagen we sell comes with 3 years no-charge scheduled maintenance. Do a quick search and you'll see why smart people like you choose Hawk VW. The reviews don't lie. We're highly rated on Google, Carfax, Facebook, Dealer Rater, and we have an A+ rating with the BBB. And we actively support our community. Now is the best time to buy a new Volkswagen. We've got over 200 new Volkswagen models in stock and ready to drive home today, including the 2023 Volkswagen ID4, Volkswagen's first fully electric vehicle. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet, online at hawkvw.com. Offer ends 3/31/23. For more details, please call 815-741-1100.
If you're interested in buying a home in the near future and you're looking for a real estate professional that's going to have your back, we bring them on the air right here at the Home Buyers Hour. Every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, we're going to have some of the best real estate agents, attorneys, mortgage brokers, and myself, a home inspector, right here on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter.
I'm Dr. Anthony Lagos, and this is Climate Connections. Hot days are uncomfortable, and sometimes they're deadly.
Elderly people in particular are very vulnerable to heat, and also people with other health vulnerabilities such as diabetes, asthma, can have difficulties when it gets very hot.
That's Susan Mazur-Stillman of Indicia Consulting, an environmental research and consulting firm. She says air conditioning is a 60 seconds. Keep safe in extreme heat. But air conditioners use a lot of energy, and for many people, they can be too expensive to run all the time. So as part of a project led by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, her firm conducted interviews and focus groups with residents of Fresno, California, about some of the lower cost methods they use to stay cool.
A great example from our Fresno research was that people are using blackout curtains, and they really cut heat very, very well.
She says fans can also improve people's comfort. These strategies do not replace the need for air conditioning when it's dangerously hot, but they may help reduce how much the AC needs to run. So Mazur-Stillman says they can help make it more affordable for people to protect themselves from the heat.
10 seconds.
Climate Connections is produced by the Yale Center for Environmental Communication.
More time.
Hear more stories like this.
Do you need more time?
I need one more minute. Is that possible?
Yeah, I can do it really quick.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
This, 1 minute now. PT 820
Thank you so
Heartland
much.
Single
I
News
apologize for
Minute.
that.
With the recent
found
revelation
somebody's
that
last
Clarence
minute.
Thomas failed to disclose the sale of real estate properties sold to the same Republican megadonor who plied Thomas with years of luxury travel, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse says the Supreme Court justice should be referred to the Department of Justice for what appears to be a clear violation of the law.
The court simply refuses to subject itself to any factual inquiry or investigation. And so to have the Attorney General come in and do a report that sets the facts out so that he can pursue a civil fine is very important. Setting aside the fine, it's not a big number, but the fact of an investigation is really important and potentially a spur to Chief Justice Roberts to provide a mechanism for
10 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
About Supreme Court justices.
Appreciate that.
White House was speaking on MSNBC. For WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal, I'm Andy Miles.
Joan Esposito, rock, local, and progressive.
Change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It is April 17, 2023. I am Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. Coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. That is... Because remember, I want to hear what you think is the big story of the weekend. I want to know what you think about a couple of the stories we're going to be talking about today, getting just a little bit of feedback. This 21-year-old Pentagon leaker, or is he a whistleblower? What do you think happened here? And why are people reluctant, the corporate media certainly, are reluctant to talk about his political views? He leaked documents or shared documents about Ukraine. What's going on, everybody? What's going on? And who is he? Who is he? How did someone of his age get access to that kind of information? Or is that the right question to even ask? Because when you look at someone like Ed Snowden, these people who are brilliant in the field of IT, in the field of the cyber world, they tend to be pulled out of school and trained by our government. Because, you know, someone with that kind of genius, we need them. We need them in public service. We need them in the service of the country. And so did that happen with him? Who is he? Who is he, and what did he leak, and how will this impact our relationships with our allies, and how will this impact Ukraine and Taiwan? And boy, oh boy, he leaked a lot, shared a lot, so I'm still getting an echo, but we're going to work all of that out. And so I want to know what your thoughts are. And then, of course, last week we exulted in the restoration of Texas state representatives, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. And of course, always remembering, thinking of Gloria Johnson, Tennessee State Representative Gloria Johnson, who rounds out the Tennessee 3. But the fact that they got their seats back, I think we need to understand that they have a bigger fight ahead. They are not fully credentialed, which means they cannot move around the Capitol freely. They are blocked from committees at this time, which means they will not be able to deliver to their constituents, and their constituents are overwhelmingly black. These are two of the most heavily concentrated black areas in the state of Tennessee. So what does that mean? Because eventually, you're going to not, and it'll be sooner rather than later, you'll have some people raised up against them, and the charge will be that the two Justins, if you will, are not doing their jobs. Not that the GOP are blocking them from doing their jobs. If they are coming forward on their promise to hey, they said, we're going to defund you. Defund the police, defund public education. We're going to defund you all. You're not going to be able to serve your constituents. So let's talk about that, everybody, because that's the real fight. This turns out the same kind of thing. This is politics. We're going to be talking with Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers, who will talk about how the progressive governor of Wisconsin pushed back on her. She's a progressive. Yeah, this is the way this works, everybody. So let's talk about Politics 101, because the two Justins still do not have justice, and they're not fully able to really help their constituents. Call me at 773-763-9278. Tell me what you think about this, and tell me what you think about this young black boy who was shot going to the wrong address, and there's a racial component to it, unfortunately. He was going to pick up his baby brothers. So much is going on, everybody. In Chicago, we're going to have, wow, what a drop. 42 degrees will be the high today. Snow showers. There will be a flood warning in Minneapolis, St. Paul, everybody. 46 degrees, mostly cloudy. In the NBA, we are now in the playoff season. I love this. This is when you really get my attention. Yes, I'm copping to it. The Timberwolves 80. Oh, boy, they fell to the Nuggets 109, everybody. And Denver, of course, now leads that series 1-0. The Bulls were pushed out over the weekend. The season is over, but they gave us quite a thrill. And next year, everybody, I'm sure they're going to come back. The Heat, who they were facing off against in the play-in tournament, have advanced to the playoffs. In Major League Baseball, the Yankees, too. The Twins, nothing. They were shut out, but they're going to have the night off to work it out. And the Orioles 8, the White Sox 4. They'll be playing the Phillies tonight. And the Cubs 3, the Dodgers 2. They'll be playing the Oakland A's, everybody. Ahmad Jamal, the great jazz musician, dedicating the show to him today, made his transition at 92. Everybody in the NHL, the Wild will be playing the Stars. What are some of the headline stories? Dominion versus Fox News. Wow, an historic trial in the defamation suit brought against Fox News by Dominion Voting Systems that was set to begin today was abruptly delayed until tomorrow. The Delaware Superior Court said in a statement Sunday night, Dominion, which is seeking $1.6 billion in damages, said it was defamed by Fox News when the network's hosts and guests claimed that its voting systems illegally rigged the 2020 election against then-President Donald Trump. While the judge's statement did not provide an explanation for the delay, some analysts say that the move throws into question whether a settlement is in the works. A shooting, oh my goodness, at a Sweet 16 birthday party in Dadeville, Alabama over the weekend left 4 people dead and at least 28 people injured. Indeed, several athletes, at least one athlete who had a full scholarship, this young man, life snuffed out. It was at a Sweet 16 party. Officials said they are working to uncover details about what led up to the shooting and have yet to release information on a suspect. Among those killed was the birthday girl's brother. Oh, boy. The shooting left dozens with a wide variety of injuries. We have got to think about that, everybody. Got to talk about that. What happened at that party in Dadeville, Alabama, everybody. SpaceX is targeting a 9 a.m. Eastern Time liftoff for its Starship vehicle rocket ever built. However, CEO Elon Musk is setting low expectations for the launch as it sits on the pad of the company's facilities on the southern Texas coastline. He said, and I quote, "If we get far enough away from the launch pad before something goes wrong, then I think I would consider that to be a success. Just don't blow up the pad," he said, everybody. The Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas intends to amend his financial disclosure forms to reflect a 2014 real estate deal he made with Republican megadonor Harlan, that's right, Harlan Crow, who also bought his mother's house, has taken him on trips, and on and on and on and on. Thomas said that he did not believe at the time that he needed to disclose the deal with the GOP donor because he lost money in the transaction, according to a source close to the story. Thomas has also come under fire for not reporting luxury travel that he and his wife, Virginia Thomas, took with Crow, including trips on his yacht and private jet. And what about his ties to the 8 cases that are tied to Harlan Crow that in which Justice Thomas voted affirmatively to help his friend? So, got a lot to talk about today, everybody. We're continuing to look at that story. We have got the pastor. He's got so much going on at this fantastic church at New Mount Pilgrim Church here in Chicago. And we're always so glad to have this brilliant theologian and preacher on with us as we do today, Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch. How are you, Pastor Hatch?
Good morning. How you doing, Santita? And good morning to the audience.
Great hearing your voice. We need some good news. There's so much confusion. Of course, we are praying for the people of Dadeville. Can you imagine at a Sweet 16 birthday party this kind of tragedy? But this is kind of where we are right now. Pastor Hatch, what is the good news?
Well, of course, as you mentioned, there's a lot of confusion. I want to just lift up just for a way of helping us approach today, a familiar kind of thought in a New Testament scripture, Romans 3:6-23, and it says, "The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord." Very interesting. We've heard that verse, many of us, over the years, but that contrast between wages and gifts, 2 different things, 2 different approaches to life. The wages of sin, in other words, the sin is as the missing of the mark that God has for us as our optimum selves, and to be the best of who we are created to be. We fall short. The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. And so the challenge is the challenge of our perspective, whether or not we will live through the lens of earning wages, or we'll live through the lens of being able to receive the gifts of God. You know, wages are what we earn. Gifts are what are given gracefully. And so I think that the scripture is challenging us to live in such a way today that we're not clamoring for what we got coming, what we think we deserve, but literally we're open with expectation to what God freely gives us. And it really is a small nuance, but it's sort of a thing that really opens up new vistas once I see myself living by God's gifts, as opposed to trying to demand what I believe I have coming from the universe, from God. So this is it really is a spiritual lens. I'm just going to lift up just a few thoughts from that distinction between living by wages and living by gifts as my attitude, my approach to life.
I love that.
You know, the spiritual dimension. You know, first is the sort of the spirit of being either graceful or entitled. You've talked a lot about entitlement and the destructiveness of that to the human personality. And so if I see myself living by God's gifts, it sort of releases me from that spirit of entitlement that can take me through so many destructive paths. And so it's having a graceful spirit, literally what we used to call an attitude of gratitude. I'm just grateful, not entitled. And then second, it's sort of when we believe that we receive grace, or we're living by the gifts of God, that God is doing us a favor. You know, we have the favor of God, meaning God is doing us a favor. We live by gifts. It leads to an approach of being gracious in my approach to life, as opposed to, you know, competition and conflict. You know, trying to get something and thinking that there's some kind of limited supply I have to fight to get from other people, because I think that we live by lack and shortage as opposed to God's abundance. So when I live gracefully, it makes me gracious. It softens the interpersonal relationships that I have with other people. And so people who live by grace tend to be gracious. People who live entitled tend to be conflictual. And then ultimately I possess then a spirit of contentment as opposed to discontentment. I'm happy when I live by gifts as opposed to demanding wages or entitlement. And so it gives me, again, a spirit of contentment. Contentment is next to godliness, is another teaching. It just means that it brings me into a real balance with the divine. And so I do feel content this morning and not deprived or discontent. And ultimately, the outlook of life when I live by gifts as opposed to the demand of wages, it means that I approach life, the way I act in life, is from a place of asset and not deficit. In other words, I look at what I have. I'll never forget the great story of Martin Luther King Sr. when he had lost so much. You know, we most of us know about the assassination of Dr. King. Not all of us know that just a couple of years after that, A.D. King, the other son, drowned and died. And then, you know, maybe 4 years after that, the beloved wife, Alberta King, the mother of Martin Luther King, herself was shot playing the organ of Ebenezer Church on a Sunday morning. And Daddy King had lost so much, but there was something resilient about his faith as one who believed they lived by the grace of God. And they asked Daddy King, they said, "You've lost so much. How do you remain so joyous, so cheerful, so resilient?" And Daddy King simply answered, "I tend to concentrate not on what I lost, but I try to focus on what I have left." Mm-hmm. I live by God's gifts and not by demanding a sense of entitlement. And so I challenge today, the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. We live by the grace of God, and it opens for us, the visitors, to live abundantly. Amen.
Amen. Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch, the New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church here in Chicago, Illinois. Please give him your support. They're doing a lot of great work, he and Dwight McKee, with these young people, with these young men, and we support that. Sending you so much love today, you and the First Lady and your beautiful, beautiful family. That's
Thank you.
Growing, beautiful family. We've got Dr. Shanina Knighton with us, infection preventionist. So balance of my time, 3 minutes, and I'm going to grab a couple of minutes on the other side to you, because, I have to tell you, as an infection preventionist, I'm always, now you have made me hyper vigilant about everything. Girl, I'm almost afraid to use my hands because of you. Thank you very much. It's like I can't keep them clean enough. But we see just how important having this proper hand hygiene is. Is there any, as we're moving, at least in practice and in terms of our monies, everything's being shifted away from COVID. And really, I'm wondering, have we learned any lessons about infection prevention? I mean, as we move into this new period, because as of May, second week in May, officially the COVID emergency is over, which means the monies that people were getting, that's over. A lot of this is over. And, and people are over it, even though COVID's still out here, RSV and all of these other communicable illnesses and diseases are out here. What do you want us to know?
Good morning, Santita. I think the biggest thing to focus on at this point in time is just understanding that we are undergoing a lot of environmental changes. Resources are changing, which means that, yes, error does happen. So we are in a situation of where I would say we are more prone to illness and disease that would exist. And so with that being said, there also comes a concern, a growing concern of what is it that we do in this instance to essentially make sure that we're staying ready so we don't have to get ready. One of those first things that I want to emphasize is, yes, the COVID dollars may stop, but infection prevention does not. Meaning that those are protective measures that at any point in your life are going to keep you safe. And I'm specifically talking about hand hygiene. So I understand that there's controversy over masks. It's not realistic for people to wear masks for the rest of our lives. And you and Dr. Baird have heard me say that from the very beginning. But it's also called, what does smart infection prevention and control look like? And I will tell you that it's dependent, especially if I'm, let's say, in a subway or I'm in a bus or I'm in a space where there are closed-in individuals, I still do always wear a mask. Unfortunately, people will cough and say that it's not a cough. People will sneeze and not say it's a sneeze or cover their nose or their mouth. So what it provides me is protection against the habits that others still continue to have because they have not learned from the pandemic. And it's unfortunate, but this is some of the things that I'm still seeing to this day. And I've even had an experience recently of where a gentleman was talking, and every time he talked, I could literally feel the droplets touching my face. So we have to ask ourselves, what does infection prevention and control look like, and what was the pandemic trying to teach us? In this particular instance, any of us at any time can be a victim to some sort of germ that someone else is transmitting. So it's best that you protect yourself by making sure you distance yourself from others that you may not know, and really paying attention, what does it mean to be sick? If I'm normalizing not being sick, how do I make sure that I'm surrounded by other individuals that normalize not being sick? And if there is suspected illness, making sure that I advocate to someone that I don't want to be ill and that I do encourage their distance or for them to also seek care or stay home.
Boy, talk about putting it in a nutshell, because that really is it. Because many of us are so accustomed to going to work, hacking, coughing, sneezing, because quite frankly, the workplace has demanded that of all of us. But now we have to do something different. I think that we're going to have to demand something else or require something else of the workplace. That is to say, people need sick days, paid sick leave, which our railroad workers still do not have. We need to have that. I don't want to communicate this cold to you, this virus to you. I don't want to do that. So, you need to stay home and not feel that you're going to lose your job. Think about that, everybody. It's just something for us to think about today about being healthy and normalizing that. Please go to Hey Dr. Nina, Hey Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA, and check her out. Follow her. She does such great work and gives us great advice on how to be well and normalize wellness. Let's talk about this 21-year-old leaker. Or is he a whistleblower? What is it? Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. how are you? I'm sorry we ran a little long today.
That's okay.
But thank you so much, because quite frankly, that was perfect. But, I know that we're going to have to push hand hygiene.
Yeah. I agree. And it's so sad because people really don't realize, like, something that's so simple has, like, such a profound impact. And because of that, that is sometimes, like, the frustration, because you don't realize it's the simplest things that can keep us, safe. And I laugh, Santita, because while I understand that people, like, might not have access to vegetables and fruits, think about it. That is the simplest form of eating, and the thing that can keep us safe. Hand hygiene is the simplest form of infection prevention that can keep us safe, but yet we always think we need more.
But think about it. You can get a Happy Meal more or less expensively than you can get these other meals. Like if you want to get a bundle of vegetables and fruit, that's a hard thing. I mean, which is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. But you know it's true. I mean, it's like, whoa, what are you all doing? There's no real sense of, I don't feel us being guided toward healthfulness, unfortunately. And but that's why we're here. That's why we're here doing this work. Because that's why I said, no, if whatever space I've got, this is what we'll talk about, getting healthy.
Sending Dr. Gibbs and Bryce Green through. I couldn't get an answer from Chaparral.
Oh, okay, no worries. Okay. Okay, let me say hello to Dr. Gibbs and to Bryce Green.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Santita.
It's great to hear your voices today.
Good to yours. How's everything going?
Oh, look, I cannot complain. Things are good, and better than that. And that's all I'm claiming. How about that?
Oh, well, that's good. Right.
That is all. Dr. Gibbs, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Wonderful hearing your voice.
Yeah, thanks. Good to hear you too, Santita.
And I'm so glad I wanted to talk with you two about this, because I said, this is right in your wheelhouse. And because, they're studiously avoiding his politics. What he might have seen that might have bothered him, like Ed Snowden. It's just
60 seconds.
Help me with this. You all just help me with it. How do we pronounce his name? Because it sounds like he's Portuguese. It looks like it is a Portuguese name. Is it Teixeira?
I think it's Teixeira, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Teixeira, I think. I've heard both, so.
Well, I know it sounds like something else. I mean, I just feel that they're mispronouncing it, because if I go with the Portuguese, it would be Teixeira. Always with the Portuguese. Oh,
that sounds right. Yeah.
So that's why I was curious. I keep hearing all of these pronunciations, and I had to do something on
10
it.
seconds, everyone.
And I said, I want to get the name right, and everybody looked at me like I was nuts. So, okay, here we go.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. I want you to call me here at WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Facebook reached out to me. They said, please get everybody over there. So everybody, please like and subscribe on my Facebook page. And they only reached out because of the traffic that I'm beginning to get, that I started getting some time ago because of you. And I want to thank you for that. And please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Like that page, that's where you can become my friend. The other page, I can't bring anyone else on. In fact, they're kicking people off. It's not my doing. This is a Facebook policy. So please go to Santita Jackson and Friends. Go to Santita Jackson and Friends and be my friend. Let us talk about this whistleblower, or is this young man a leaker? 21 years of age. We don't know. I mean, a lot of people are being very, 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 very careful about this 21-year-old IT specialist. And I think we need to understand who this Air National Guardsman, Jack Teixeira, actually is. He was arrested last week for his alleged role in leaking secret files about some very sensitive things that we do about our intelligence and therefore our intelligence assets. Who knows who he endangered? About Ukraine. Some people are calling him, Republicans are calling him an anti-war whistleblower. Wow. And why is the corporate media avoiding that? What about, he's from an Air Force family. There's a lot to dig up here and to understand about him. Many people are asking how someone so young got access to such sensitive information. But, I'm going to let Dr. David Gibbs, historian from the University of Arizona, and Bryce Green, fairness and accuracy in reporting, an academic himself, I'm going to let them get into that because, indeed, did anyone see the movie about Ed Snowden? You saw that they said, derisively when we first came to know of him, that he didn't go to college. Well, actually, the government tracked his genius in the cyber world. And what they do with people like that is people who have that special gift, they pull them in. That's what happened. That's how he became, an intelligence contractor. So we need to talk about this and find out just what happened and where we're going to go from here with all of this. What did he reveal, and how will this impact what we're doing in Ukraine? How will this impact Taiwan? How will this impact our intelligence allies? How will it impact our relationships with our allies? I mean, they're beginning to say, America's coming off at is really kind of coming off, the wheels are coming off this thing. Your money's funny. You can't protect our secrets, and on and on and on and on it goes. Let me start with you, Dr. David Gibbs, University of Arizona. What happened here?
Well, this is very much a breaking story still, and there's a great deal we don't know. You did have, I should add generally what you have with people who, leakers historically have tended to be people of very high intelligence. That was true of Ellsberg, that was true of Snowden. I wouldn't be surprised if it's true of this young man as well. He's only 21 and he's an IT specialist. Now, as you noted, the intelligence services often sort of ferret out these people, even if they don't have college degrees, based upon unique skill sets. And we don't really know very much about his motives. There have been different claims about his motives. Republicans have claimed he's acting on the basis of a principled anti-war position. I've seen other claims that, he's made racist and anti-Semitic statements, and I don't feel I have enough information to really assess what his motives may be. It may be he's just been trying to impress his friends on the Discord server. It is significant that he uploaded these things to a Discord server months in advance. But I think what's more significant is what he has revealed. And what we now know about the documents is they are somewhat damaging to the U.S. position in Ukraine. And they do reveal a much more pessimistic view of the outcome of this war than American officials are letting on. American officials have been for months saying that, victory is within the grasp of Ukraine. Privately, they're being more pessimistic, and they're suggesting that becoming a counteroffensive that Ukraine is planning are unlikely to yield yield major positive results. That's not what they're telling the public. And so I think, irrespective of what Teixeira's motives may be, the effect, as is often the case, is that, leaks of secret documents often undermine the official narrative and reveal the extent to which classification of documents is used to mislead and lie to the public and to sell a policy through deception to circumvent democratic processes. I think that's the main legacy we keep getting from these leaks. We certainly got that with Snowden. We got that with the Pentagon Papers. I think on a much smaller scale, we are getting that with the Teixeira leaks. There are many damaging features that come across here. The U.S., for example, spying on its allies. In South Korea, there was a great deal of anger at U.S. spying on South Korea, nominally a U.S. ally. Now, this does not come off well, and this is very embarrassing to the government. And I think that's the main picture I'm getting from this, is it's damaging to the official narrative coming out of the U.S. government on the Ukraine war.
Well, with South Korea, that's curious to me because we occupy South Korea. We're still at war with Korea. Help me with that. We're essentially, they're like a vassal state.
Yeah, that's right. South Korea's army is completely integrated into, the U.S. military forces in South Korea, I think except for a couple of unique units. It's part of a joint command structure. And so, the U.S. has always had a great deal of influence over the operations of the South Korean military and in South Korea more generally. If you look at the scholarship of Bruce Cummings at the University of Chicago, he's a leading scholar of the Korean War. South Korea was very much created by the United States in many respects. After World War II, it began sort of as a U.S. vassal state. I think it would be overstating to say it's still a vassal state. Obviously, it's a powerful country in and of itself, but there's still a very large U.S. presence in South Korea, and they have a lot of influence over operations of the South Korean military still, yes.
It's very interesting, everybody. What do you think? What do you think about these revelations? And how will they impact your thoughts about Taiwan, about our relationships with our allies, about Ukraine, and all of that? What about this pessimistic view of Ukraine that the higher-ups in the military actually have about what we're doing over there? I want you to call us at 773-763-9278, because remember, this is your money. And as we're fighting over not just COVID dollars, but Americans are living hand to mouth. Payday to Monday, as my friend Lynn Richardson writes. The fact is, most Americans cannot afford to go to the hospital, let alone get an emergency room visit. Can you afford to send your child to the University of Chicago? That's $100,000 per year for an undergraduate. $100,000 per year. And that's more and more of these top-tier schools, so-called top-tier schools. That's what increasingly education is becoming the sole space of the very wealthy. Think about that. And when you go on these campuses, you see increasingly, you see fewer and fewer American students. So think about that too. I'm not for excluding anyone, but I'm saying, wait a minute, what is happening, Dr. Gibbs, with Americans? We're struggling out here, and no one's really talking about it. Bryce Green, what do you make of these revelations? Is he a whistleblower? Is he a leaker? Dr. Gibbs is right, the story is still developing, but what is this? Bryce Green?
This is a very interesting story on a lot of fronts. The question of whether or not to call him a whistleblower or a leaker, I think it's really depends on how you define either of those words. Regardless, this information that's been presented is extremely significant. And it's interesting that after reporting on these leaks, the mainstream media immediately turned to helping the federal government hunt this guy down. The New York Times published an article that helped lead to his arrest, and in collusion with other U.S. government-funded outlets like Bellingcat. And so they immediately turned this story about the leaker, about the whistleblower, about the individual, rather than the fact that these leaks actually reveal a massive deception on the part of the Biden administration and the military establishment with respect to how this war is actually going. And voices like you and other alternative media have been very critical of the high-minded pronouncements from the Biden administration, this idea that if we just give Ukraine enough billions of dollars in weapons, that they will eventually push back the Russians and, save the free world, yada, yada, yada. But critical observers, serious observers, have pointed out that that's not very likely, given the massive imbalance of power and given all the reports that don't appear in Western media about how poorly the Ukrainian army is actually faring. And in addition to showing that, the Biden administration has been systematically lying about the state of the war, it also shows a lot of other things that's pretty inconvenient to the United States. Like Dr. Gibbs mentioned, the spying on allies. There's been some embarrassing leaks about U.S. intelligence in Israel. There have been a large number of embarrassing things about the U.S. government. But the fact that the corporate media is making this a story about whether or not this guy was a white supremacist or whether or not he has said some off-kilter jokes in his Discord, I don't think that's important at all. His motives don't matter to me so much as the fact that his actions reveal a deep systemic rot within the American system, and that needs to be addressed. When Edward Snowden was getting in the spotlight for his release of the documents, he made it pretty clear that he made himself known and he was as transparent as possible because he wanted the story to be about the documents and not about the person, Edward Snowden. That didn't end up happening, but his motives are pretty understandable. When you make it about the person, you get to obfuscate the actual substance. And that seems to be the U.S. government's public relations strategy now, and it seems to be being backed up by the corporate media.
Let's go to Ron from Michigan. Ron, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita and panel. What concerns me is the revelation. Actually, it's no revelation. I read, it was in the front page, New York Times, over the summer and spring, where top NATO special forces said every NATO special forces is operating in Ukraine and Russia. This was in front page New York Times. But then the revelation came out with this, whatever you want to call, whistleblower, crazy gamer kid, that, yes, we have our special forces are operating in Russia, Ukraine, and also it'll be all of NATO forces. But what are they doing? Are they blowing up the bridges? Are they blowing up the airfields? Are they blowing up the munitions factories where the Wall Street Journal reporter was investigating? And does that have any link to the biggest dairy farm in the United States, 19,000 cows blown up? Does it have anything to do with the big plastic factory in the Ohio-Indiana border burning for days? All the water being wasted, all these railroad, derailments. We're at war with Russia. Let's admit it. If we have our special forces, they're operating. Those are trained. And this is the thing. I want to know if our soldiers are being put under their death warrants, okay? I'm a Vietnam veteran. I remember I was lied to going in there, and we're still being lied to about the Vietnam War. As far as war crimes go, what we did to the Vietnamese people is 10,000 times worse than what Russia is doing to the Ukrainians. And granted, the Russians are wrong for invading, just like NATO is wrong for encircling Russia and strangling it. But this whole thing can go back to World War II. When we took in Reinhard Gehlen, Nazi SS war criminal, we took him in, lock, stock, and barrel, every one of his agents, all his information, incorporated that into our OSS, which became our CIA. Reinhard Gehlen became the highest-ranking NATO general. Millionaire, war crimes from World War II, and he led our NATO. Give me a break.
Well, Ron, let me ask you this. I do have a question for you, because my uncle was a Vietnam War veteran, and he and my mother differed quite sharply about that. bless their hearts. And it created some difficulties for them. They loved each other, but, people at that time, as you well know, you were quite entrenched in your positions. And my mother's from a military family. That having been said, what happened when you found out that you were not being told the truth? I mean, you went into Vietnam with what thinking, and you came back with what thinking? What happened? How did that change your thinking, or did it change your thinking?
It changed my thinking. I had a 4-year deferment for a sheet metal apprenticeship, but I had to go to Vietnam. My brother had been to Vietnam. I was at the 68 conventions. I had cops who were fighting against my buddies from high school, and I had friends from the National Guard who were fighting against. But I had to go to Vietnam. I had to see this thing for myself. I was anti-war going in, and I became even more anti-war throughout my time in Vietnam. Okay, I was not in combat, but I was anti-war, hardcore anti-war, and that's what I did in Vietnam. And it worked, okay? I think I was effective in helping to bring the war to a close quicker, plain and simple, in my actions. Just my little, what I did, I reported on things that I saw or what soldiers told me, okay? Mm-hmm. And that went to every GI, every newspaper, underground newspaper, Germany, Korea, United States, okay? So when people did actions in Vietnam, anti-war actions, other soldiers knew about that. And I'll tell you, as far as I was concerned, when I saw the anti-war, I was there when Kent State, the murder went down. Mm-hmm. I was in Vietnam, okay? But, yeah, it changed it made me more, here's another thing, Santita.
Well, just very quickly, because, my time is getting short. But I want you to stay right there for a hot second, really.
My father served in World War II.
No, stay right.
My father served in World War II.
And God bless you. And I join Jewel in so many of my morning stars in thanking you for your service. I hope that one day we'll be able to, we'll extend that, Dr. Gibbs and Bryce Green, to teachers and to garbage workers and to all people who really help us to get through from day to day to day. What do these revelations how do you expect these revelations, could they create more Rons, Dr. Gibbs?
I'm sorry, repeat it again. I didn't get that.
Could these revelations create more Rons if they get this information?
Yes, well, I think that one of the things I've seen over 30 years teaching in Arizona, we have a very heavy military presence here in southern Arizona where I teach at the University of Arizona. And over the years, I've had many military and ex-military men and women in my classes. There's definitely a very strong anti-war sentiment among many of them. I've seen it many, many times. And the kind of thing Ron is describing here, I've seen in my students, including from more recent wars. And so that doesn't surprise me at all, hearing Ron's comments. It's not just Vietnam veterans who often are disaffected from the idea of interventionism, but many others as well. And so, it's very possible. I really don't know what's going on in the mind of this young man, Teixeira. It's possible that's what happened with him. I don't know. On the other hand, I do agree with Bryce Green that with regard to Teixeira, the thing that's more important is what he has revealed in those documents rather than what his motivations are in terms of leaking them. And there's a tendency in the press with regard to these types of situations to focus on the leaker rather than the content of what is leaked, which in this case is very significant. And, it does get into the issue of, is the public being lied to by the government? And to what extent is this a systematic feature of how we work with regard to the military and the intelligence services? One way of looking at it is that, the military and intelligence services are kind of a non-democratic element functioning within our society that are essentially non-accountable. And leaks like this, when they occur, they expose that fact. This is a non-democratic element. And it's very surprising the extent to which the media has been trying to obscure this basic fact from the public. That's a serious problem. So irrespective of what the motivations are of the leaker, I think he has done a public service by making available to the public the facts of what the U.S. is doing, particularly in Ukraine.
Bryce Green, the last 2 minutes belong to you.
Well, I just want to piggyback on some of Ron said about how this all goes back to World War II. And it goes back to showing how at the end of World War II, America had half the world's wealth, exorbitant power, and their military planning was designed to keep that power. And that includes projecting its influence into Western Europe. Reinhard Gehlen, like he said, was a former Nazi SS officer. He was later promoted to being the head of West German intelligence. And he helped recruit a lot of the Nazi elements that stayed and were able to foment discontent within Ukraine. And so there's a direct line between that power at the end of World War II and the war we're seeing now. And throughout that entire time, obfuscation and lying and public manipulation has been a core feature of how the U.S. has maintained this empire, has maintained this privilege and wealth and power. And these leaks are just another glimpse into how these lies are going on today. I mean, every couple of years, we get a new revelation about how Americans were lied to about this or that conflict. We get the Pentagon Papers. We learned that the U.S. was lying about the war in Iraq. We learned that they lied to invade all these countries, and we got the Afghanistan Papers. At what point does the American public understand that this is a permanent feature of the American regime, of the American state? And these leaks, hopefully, they might bring that into sharp relief for many Americans. But that's for alternative media to push.
Well, is this what President Eisenhower, who refused to salute, is this what he was warning us about? 30 seconds, Bryce, and then 30 seconds for you, Dr. Gibbs.
This is precisely what he was warning about. The military-industrial complex, when you have so many economic and military forces, the power elite in America have their wealth and power derived from the war-making state, well, that war-making state is going to become a power center unto itself. And eventually it's going to dominate and eat up the public state, the democratic parts of our society. And that seems to be what's happening.
Dr. Gibbs, 30 seconds for you.
Yes, there's no doubt the military-industrial complex has been a source of sort of systemic corruption in the American polity, one of the biggest sources of corruption, one might say, given the scale of the funding. And it is a pressure source in favor of war, and no doubt contributed significantly to this very dangerous war that is going on in Ukraine right now. And just one more thing is that presidents tend to like war because it makes them look important. I think Biden is probably very excited about the idea of being a war president. And I think that's a very dangerous thing. Any president should focus more on improving the lives of people economically in the United States rather than being a war president. And, I think that, the very psychology of the need for presidents to prove themselves as war presidents, maybe that's a tradition that needs to end.
Dr. David Gibbs, historian, University of Arizona. Bryce Green, fairness and accuracy in reporting. I just thank you both for just really for all of your courage in really in speaking, giving us these facts in this environment, everybody. Dr. David Gibbs and Bryce Green, let's talk about the two Justins, the Tennessee Three. You think that their fight is over? No, they can't get committee assignments, everybody. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Dr. Gibbs and Bryce Green, you all are the best. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you, Santita.
Oh, no, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. Oh, gosh. This is all so much. Goodness gracious. Every day, it's like, when are we going to learn? We're looking crazy. This doesn't look well. This is not a good look for us. It's not. It is not. But I thank you all for everything that you do, and we will be talking more and more because there's so much to discuss. I'm going to let you guys go so I can get these 2 lines, but sending you both much love and many blessings.
Much love, Santita.
Much love, much love. Let me know when you're back in Chicago. You need to come this way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Semester's finishing up, so I'm going to have some time.
Well, we've got our convention, so I'm going to have to call you and Dr. Gibbs about that because we need you to participate in it. That's July 15th through the 19th. So we're going to be talking about that. Oh,
okay.
And of
I'll
course,
keep that on my radar.
Absolutely. And Dr. Gibbs said, he's always so gracious. He said, it's always so good to be with you because the air up here is kind of rarefied. I'm not worried about it. Because, look, if you live long enough, you circle around the sun, not past it. I think about it. We sounded nuts a few months ago. I guess it was a year ago. And now here we are. And see, and what bothers me, Bryce, is just what it's costing us in terms of our money, in terms of just everything. It's costing us far too much. And Americans are hurting out here.
$100 billion. Not enough for food. Cutting Medicaid, cutting SNAP benefits. We got $100 billion for Ukraine.
I'm just trying to figure out how that happened. $100 billion. What is going on over there? What do y'all want with Ukraine? And please don't tell me freedom, because I can't even get my vote here. Been asking for asking for, an executive order for voting rights. I can't get that. Things are so egregious, so outrageous with the 2 Justins. Eric Holder is Justin Jones' lawyer. That's how. Wow. Oh yeah, that's how out the box this stuff is. He is his lawyer because they have constitutional issues. Because now they can't get committee assignments. And what will happen is, you got to look at what happened to what they tried to do to John Conyers. They ended up pushing him out. They'd always wanted him out because he was just such a progressive. But what happened to Adam Clayton Powell? You'll find someone more acceptable, right? Because they push you out. And then the
sending Dwight McKee, Dr. Starks, Attorney Jones, and Representative Myers through.
Fantastic. The word will go forth that they're not representing their people when they can't get committee assignments. They can't get money. It's awful. It's awful. But I want you to meet this Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers. She's someone you should keep on your radar. Bryce Green and Dwight McKee and, of course, Attorney Jones. And I want you all to meet Bryce Green from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. He does brilliant work. And he and Dr. Gibbs and I have been taking is Dr. Starks there?
I'm on.
Oh, okay.
I'm on.
We've been taking these beat downs about Ukraine from the beginning. But, now we're seeing with these leaked documents so much that has been told that has just not been true. So, these people don't think this is going to work. This is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And you see, they killed this little black boy. Well, didn't kill him. Thank God he's still living. But this little black boy and went to the wrong house. Oh, and got shot.
I read that too.
Oh, boy. God bless this baby.
All right, Santita. I'm going to leave you now, and you ready for class.
Oh,
hey, y'all have a good show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you've done.
Absolutely. Bye.
Oh, bye-bye. How's everyone today?
Pretty good.
Pretty bad.
Well,
Of course, I'm better than Starks is today.
Yeah, you. Yeah, I'm older, so you're right.
Oh, boy. He is just terrible.
Oh, Santita, you were excellent on Saturday. The program was excellent at Operation Push. It was very good.
Oh,
very
you are.
good. You did an excellent job.
You are very sweet. We're trying to keep things moving.
Yes, I do understand.
Keep things moving.
And Reverend was in good spirits also. I was, quite. Reverend was in good spirits.
Yes, until I stopped him. Oh, my word.
60 seconds, everyone.
Oh, fortunately, he doesn't hold grudges. And he knows I'm on his side. Because, I know he's tired, too. And I want him to... Oh, boy. I hope no one is reaching out to me. What? Okay, excuse me. Okay. Okay. How many more seconds do we have?
12.
Okay, thanks. Because I hear nothing. Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station at AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Facebook reached out to me, asked you to please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That is where I can accept new friends. Please go to Santita Jackson and Friends and spread the word. And we're streaming there. And I want you to go over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. They said to do that as well. They own all of it. They said, really, that's what YouTube is designed for. So please go over to the Santita Jackson and Friends page, everybody. Santita Jackson and Friends. Oh, excuse me, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. So let's get right to it, everybody. We're going to be talking about the two Justins today, 2/3 of the Tennessee Three. And of course, Justin Pearson, Justin Jones, and Gloria Johnson. They comprise the state representatives from Tennessee who were protesting gun violence, who faced expulsion. Indeed, Justins Jones and Pearson were expelled. They were readmitted, but the struggle is not over. We're going to hear from Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers, who really understands how this works. They're not fully credentialed, which means they cannot get around the Capitol fully. They've been blocked from committee assignments, which ties up the money for their districts. They serve two of the blackest districts in the state of Tennessee. Think about that, everybody. And think about the whisper campaign that will begin on them if they don't deliver. They'll say, this is nice, I'm glad you did that, but you need to get out of here because you're ineffective. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. They need to be fully readmitted to that body, that state house in Tennessee. And we're going to be talking about it on the Santita Jackson Show, giving you a lesson in politics. It's much more. Getting elected is phase one, just like getting to the ballot box for you is phase one. There's a lot of work that we all have to do if we're going to keep the Republican, really make it democratic, everybody. In Chicago, 42 degrees, snow showers. Yes, can you believe it's been a drop of like 40 degrees in like 2 days? Unbelievable. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 46 degrees. Flood warning, everybody, mostly cloudy. Okay, the Bulls are out of it. I'm so hurt in the NBA. They lost. But next year, everybody. But the Heat have now advanced into the playoffs, and in the NBA, the Timberwolves, well, they fell to the Nuggets 109-80. They are in the playoffs. Come on, Timberwolves, you got to come on through, everybody. Denver leads the series 1-0. In Major League Baseball, the Yankees 2, the Twins 0. The Orioles 8, the White Sox 4. They'll be playing the Phillies tonight, and the Cubs, well, they were triumphant over the Dodgers 3-2. They will be playing against the Oakland A's today, everybody. Dedicating the show to Ahmad Jamal, who made his transition. Love that great musician, everybody. Boy, people are going on, but thank God for great work that they've left behind in the NHL. The Wild will be facing off against the Stars. Everyone is praying for this young boy. The family of a 16-year-old boy shot twice in the head by a white man. He went to the wrong house, everybody. Went to pick up his brothers. And this man came out and shot him. The boy, Ralph Yarl, mistakenly went to the wrong house in a Kansas City neighborhood, according to a GoFundMe page which his aunt set up so they can pay for his medical expenses. He is hospitalized, fighting for his life as we speak. He pulled up the driveway, according to this press report, and rang the doorbell. The man in the home then, quote, according to his aunt, opened the door, looked my nephew in the eye, and shot him in the head. My nephew fell to the ground, and the man shot him in the head once more. Everybody still conscious. He ran for help, but his aunt alleged that he had to run to three different homes before someone came to his aid, and then only after ordering the 16-year-old to lie on the ground with his hands up. Wow, everybody, think about that. You know we're going to be talking about that. And you know we're going to be talking about that. How can that happen, everybody? In other news, a shooting at a Sweet 16 party in Dadeville, Alabama, over the weekend left 4 people dead and at least 28 others injured. Remember now, guns are the number one killers of our children in America. Think about that today, everybody. Think about that. Officials say they are working to uncover the details about what led up to this shooting in Dadeville, Alabama, and have yet to release information on a suspect. Among those killed was the birthday girl's brother. The shooting left dozens of partygoers with a wide variety of injuries. Indeed, one of those killed had a full football scholarship to Jackson University. Wow, down in Alabama. God bless them all, everybody. An historic vote in the defamation suit brought against Fox News by Dominion Voting Systems that was set to begin today was abruptly delayed until Tuesday. Will there be a settlement? We will soon find out. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. There's so much more to talk about, but let's talk about the two Justins. Let's talk about them. We know that they were expelled. What we don't know is the other side of this. They were readmitted. We were excited about that last week, and we're still excited. But they are not fully admitted because they cannot get on committees. They're not fully credentialed, which means they don't have complete freedom of movement around the Capitol. There's a lot going on here, but this is a political lesson for all of us. We need to understand how politics really works. Getting elected is the first part. Is just the first part. There's that part. There's so much more to getting elected. There's so much more to getting elected. So much more. So we got to talk about that here on the Santita Jackson Show. Call me and call this panel at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Of course, Dwight McKee, Dr. D, noted social scientist, Dr. Robert Starks, the professor, indeed, Northeastern Illinois University Center for Inner City Studies. He's an emeritus there. We just love him. Attorney Darrell Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. But we're going to start with Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers. Many of us think, State Representative Myers, that, okay, they've been readmitted, that's that. And we're finding, no, it's not. They've had to lawyer up. Indeed, Justin Jones' lawyer is, get this, everybody, the former U.S. Attorney General, Eric Holder. You can't make this stuff up. What is going on, State Representative Myers?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Santita, for having me. I will say you were absolutely correct. This is just the first step of many where these young men will have to continue fighting for their political lives. Being readmitted, to their office was just the first step. The next step is making sure that they are treated as though they are duly elected representatives, and that includes access to the Capitol grounds, access to members-only areas in the Capitol, being assigned to committees, which is a very important part of the legislative process, because that's where legislation is first introduced. It gets assigned to a committee. There are public hearings. The members notify your constituents when there are public hearings on pertinent pieces of information. So if they are not assigned to committees, they may not know when certain pieces of legislation come up for a hearing. That means they don't have a vote on that particular committee, which would make them look derelict in their duty if they don't let their general public know or have the ability to vote on different pieces of legislation. All of the things that we learned in elementary school, I'm just a bill, sitting on Capitol Hill, that part,
I'm
they
just
can't
a
even
bill.
do the first 2 steps of that. They can't do those things. They are just there and would have to wait to vote on the floor. And by that time, there's no way to really amend a bill by that point. You're doing it for, realistically, most bills don't get amendments on the floor. And if they do, you have to usually be in leadership to do that. There's very small chance for that happening, for them to even have debate or discussion on the floor. You're there to vote on the final passage of the bill during that time. So they can't even do an essential part of the job right now.
How does that work? I mean, so how can they work their way through this? Because indeed, the GOP promised, hey, if you come back, we're not going to let you get any money for your constituents. And these are 2 of the blackest districts in the state.
Absolutely. So they are still treating these 2 justices as though they are not elected representatives and representing a total constituency. So the fight will have to continue. That is why they have both, to my knowledge, obtained legal counsel, because they have to fight this through the court system. While they can show up to the Capitol, somebody else has to let them in. To me, that still sounds like they're not being totally treated fairly.
Well,
So
I'm going to say that one more time. What happens now when they show up to the Capitol? What?
Someone else may have to let them in the door. They can't just go to the Capitol. Like, I can go to the Capitol in Wisconsin on a Saturday. I can go on a Sunday when the Capitol is normally closed. We have key fobs that we can get into the Capitol. Capitol Police, can let us in, but we also have the ability to just go to the door, have your pass card, and you can go into the Capitol. I have keys to my office. I can go in. I don't have to have a colleague let me into the Capitol so that I can do the business of the people that I represent. So these are things that most legislators take for granted, because you get these things in the beginning of your term, but they've been stripped from these 2 gentlemen.
But you have dealt with, we have a progressive governor in Wisconsin, right? You're saying that we need to understand how politics really works, because you've gotten some pushback even from the progressive governor. You had to pay a political price. Yes?
Both sides do this, Republicans and Democrats, when you don't toe the party line or agree with individuals in your leadership. It may be like the Assembly Speaker in the state of Wisconsin. They have the ability to take away staff members. All of us get 1.5 staff. You can't get a half person, but, you get 1 full-time staff member and a part-time staffer. There's the ability that if you go against the grain or, go against leadership, they have the ability to drop you down to 1 staff or no staff. They have the ability to remove you from your committees. It's a dirty little secret that people don't realize once you get elected. We talked about this on Reverend Show yesterday when you talk about the money that is involved behind the scenes that, the dues members are expected to pay, even when they didn't get help in obtaining office.
From the party.
From the party. Mm-hmm. There are organizations that exist. At the legislative level, at the federal level, there's the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. You pay dues there when you are members of Congress, on the Democratic side. Republicans have their organizations on their side. And they expect you to raise this money to continue Democratic message. And when you choose not to, or you don't do it, fast enough, they can threaten you with loss of staff or even drops in committee. It happens.
I
don't think that most people know.
Dr. Starks?
They don't know these things.
Well, no, I mean, the reason I'm
ask,
bringing this up, Dr. Starks, is because people need to understand that voting is part of the process. Getting people into office is part of the process, but the two Justins are very, very vulnerable right now. We think that they've won and that's it, right?
Yeah, right, absolutely. I just wanted to ask Representative Myers, all of this was happening in Wisconsin in spite of the fact that the lieutenant governor was African American. What influence did he have, or did he have any influence?
How much time do you have? None.
Well, this is politics. This is American politics.
This is American politics 101. I mean, I think a lot of times people, the general voter who says, I'm doing my part, I'm supposed to vote each and every election. Santita is right with having kind of like this eyes wide open conversation today, because most of us think, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I voted for you. Lakeisha, I voted for you. Now you go do the other stuff. But they don't understand the process and the political science that goes into that process with what the Bible said, money answereth all things. That's a part of it, because politics is a business. Understanding that the Democratic National Committee as itself, as an entity, is not just the big party you see on television every 4 years. There are operating costs that go to fund that on a daily basis.
No, it is not a government entity. Let's establish that.
It is not a government
It is
entity.
a private
both the
business.
Republican Party and the Democratic Party are both private businesses that operate in tandem with the governmental offices that individuals like myself hold. And that we fund with those campaign dollars that you get, people begging every so often saying, I need $3, I need so-and-so. That money goes to fund messaging for each of those levels, and everybody has one. There's the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee, there's the DCCC at the federal level, all of these different organizations that are fundraising from the public and from their members. Aside from not just the fund, give me $50 so I can office, part of that money then has to be transitioned into the campaign, the Assembly Campaign Committee. That's what we have here in Wisconsin. The Assembly Democratic Campaign Committee. We have that. And the Senate has one too. So they say, okay, Representative Myers, we expect you to raise $3,600 per calendar year. And we have 2-year sessions. So that's the expectation, that each quarter I get a bill sent to my email saying either you have paid your dues or you are behind.
And what are the consequences of not raising that money?
The consequences of not raising that money are they could wait until, next cycle. If I run again and say, oh, well, you want to be on a more powerful committee. That's how committee assignments can be divided. The most powerful committee in the state of Wisconsin is the Joint Finance Committee. It is the Budget Writing Committee in the state of Wisconsin. If you are on the Joint Finance Committee, I think they raised $20,000 to be on Joint Finance in the state of Wisconsin, Democrats at least.
Yeah, and this is what this is.
$20,000 a year that you have to have.
On
that committee
on the state
how
level.
How many African American members on the state level are on that committee right now? And I can only tell you there's one.
Look, I saw it in Congress. You walk into, particularly when Rahm Emanuel was there, my brother Congressman Jackson walked into owing a couple $100,000, and he would call and be belligerent, and Jesse is no punk, so he would push back. And they wanted to they will keep you off of a committee, and they'll keep you out of power.
They'll pass your bills.
That's right.
So you are fighting on two fronts. That's what I want the public to understand. As a member, you are fighting on two fronts. So you are fighting to either keep up with what your new responsibilities are, the ones that you knew about legislatively, which is what the people elected you to do, and then the behind-the-scenes mastery that happens financially. That if you are just starting out as a member of the legislature, we've had people that come from all different walks of life that serve in the legislature. You know, we have people that are farmers. We have folks that are, you know, attorneys, teachers. I myself am a former educator and a teacher. You have folks that were daycare owners. The one African American woman that is on joint finance right now is a former home daycare provider. So I'm sure she did not just have an extra $20,000 laying around because you don't make that much money in early child care. So again, these level of appointments, but there's also to a certain degree a patronage system that exists even with these things because you have been good to the party. So you are rewarded in certain ways. So that can also be used as a reward system as well. So you get more donations, things like that, so that you can make those ends meet with your financial obligations to the state. But you also have to do the legislative legwork as well. It makes a big difference with independent thinking. You know, Santita, you think about it as being a populist, you know, just doing the will of the people, what they ask you to do. There have been times the governor and I did not agree on a couple bills, and things have happened. And I would get phone calls, people trying to pressure you to not vote a certain way or not vote a certain way. Now, like you said, your brother's no punk, neither am I. You know, so I do what I do. But, you know, and people understand and they respect that, I think, more in the end than if they figure out they can put you over a barrel and whip you.
But also, when you're trying to deliver to your constituents, you have to make some decisions.
There are 57,000 people that sent me to Madison.
That's right.
Those are the people that I'm responsible to. I'm not responsible to anybody else that doesn't live in the district.
So, you know what? I want you to stay right there because I want us to make the point as we go to break. I really want to help you to understand how politics works, everybody. So when you see that someone has cut a deal, a Democrat's cut a deal with a Republican, it's not as simple as Democrats and Republicans. You will get up on the Hill, you'll get up to the state capitol, and you will find some Republicans who agree with you. There were some Republicans who did not want to vote out Justin Pearson and Justin Jones. But they said, you know what, no, I want you to vote on this. And they said, oh, okay. Because you will get there, and there's some people who actually think that this is unfair, and then there's some Democrats who think you need to be voted out because you're rocking the boat too hard. So, you know,
active campaigns of people who will find folks to run against you because you didn't vote a certain way.
No, the party. Wait a minute.
Challenges live.
The party does it. The party does it. Because you are not, because at the end of the day, Democrats and Republicans come together to protect the corporate world, period. They have different cultural appeals. That's why I told you all, I don't go into these anti-Republican rages. I'm tired of that. I'm from Chicago. The biggest fight we had when I was a child and all of my life has been with the party, the Democratic Party. Richard Daley? What? Oh, honey, wait a minute. No. So I don't do that. And I'm glad Boss Daley, Richard J. and Richard M. Daley, great teachers. No man is your friend, no man is your enemy, every man is your teacher. That's what the great Florence Scovel Shinn teaches you. They taught us about power. And you need to understand power doesn't have a party. Power doesn't have a party. It's just power, baby. That's what it is. We'll stay right there. We're going to hear from, I know Dwight McKee and Attorney Darrell Jones are itching to get in on this. And we want you to do that as well. 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Carol out there in Beverly Hills is saying, this is an interesting conversation. Wow. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. politics is almost like the devil. No, politics is just what it is. You just have to know how to play the game. We're very new to all of this because, as Reverend Jackson says, we were in slavery longer than we've been free. We need to understand how this thing works. And when you understand how it works, you can roll with it. What you want to do is elevate it so you get the evil out of it, the church, and every other entity you know. Now, the fact is, the power is there. The power is at the State House, the power is at City Hall, the power is with the county, the power is in Washington, and the power comes from you. These people are allowed to do all the things that they do because you vote or you don't vote. You say or you don't say. When Americans rise up peacefully and say, this is the kind of government we want and this is what we want you to do, they respond. But until you have to start catching, when they want to raise up someone who doesn't have an afro, okay? Or someone who doesn't have a long ponytail. Someone who might be more presentable to you playing on your own issues, right? Because that's what they'll do to the two Justins, okay? That's what they'll do. Don't fall for it. That's why I wanted Lakeisha on here. State Representative Lakeisha Myers, and she understands Chicago politics too because she's from here. She worked for Congressman Davis. So she understands this thing. Whew, I'm so glad you are up in Wisconsin, but wow. God bless you. State Representative Myers. Girl, because you are wound up this morning. I'm not mad at you, that part. But we're on Facebook Live right now. Why do you think it's important to tell this part of the story?
For everyone to understand the business side of working with a party or within a party, whichever one you choose. You got two big tents and then you got third parties. They operate the same way. This is the same thing how unions operate. Any organization, like you said, your church, there is a structure in place that exists in everything. And if you choose to participate, you need to know all of the rules. There are a lot of people, we go and we recruit people all the time. I work with different organizations like Emerge America and others that always say, we want to recruit women and people of color to run for office. Do you tell them the whole thing? That's the first question I ask. Did you tell them about X, Y, Z? Now, if you get elected, running for office, for all intents and purposes, to a certain degree, is the easy part. People think it's just about yard signs and, making sure that you go out and shake hands and kiss babies. The other part of this is once you get elected, now you have to operate within the system and figure out how to utilize the system for your benefit, which would be the benefit of your constituents.
And Representative Myers, one of the interesting things is that oftentimes people don't know that when you're African American and you're coming in to the elected position and you are one of very few African Americans that are there, there's no one to mentor you. There's no one to tell you, look out there, landmines over here. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. Or you should do this and you should do that because these are the repercussions of what will happen if you do it. Now, oftentimes, they're not those folks that are there to just give you some of the basic information of what to look out for. So, when you come forward and people like you come forward and presenting this information, for a lot of people, this is really super informative for them because they have no idea of how the sausage is made when you're making the legislation. They just see the end product. So, for you to come forward with this information, I think is just, really, I call it certainly taking the scales off the eyes of a lot of folks so we can see what's going on in that process.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I appreciate my state senator so much, Lena Taylor, because she took the time and has taken the time for a lot of people. Every time one of us gets elected, she will have a meeting with us and say, look, use my office as a tool, as a resource.
45 seconds.
Don't just come here and think that you have to start from scratch. Mm-hmm. That's what 20 years of experience looks like. Institutional knowledge looks like walking through the door, is mentoring somebody else. Now, does everybody listen? No, but I did.
And we can hear that.
Successful because I listened.
And we can hear that. I mean, Congressman Jonathan Jackson is going in, getting institutional knowledge. That's what you have to do. You have to pass it on.
10 seconds.
Stand by, everybody. We've got 5 seconds. We'll come to you, Attorney Jones, and then to you, of course, Dwight McKee.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Yes, let's change the world. Santita Jackson on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Each of you on this call should be at the Rainbow Push Convention, July 15th through the 19th. Everybody within the sound of my voice, come to the convention here in Chicago. Go to rainbowpush.org and join Yvonne, who has already registered everybody. Register, please. Be a part of this conversation that we're going to be having, which will be like conversations like these. There's nothing like gathering, having these conversations, deciding to go get a sandwich and just hang out, and really, and it makes you understand that you're not by yourself. That's why I'm listening to independent media. You understand that, you're not crazy. This is what you see. So everybody, I want you to join the movement. Go to rainbowpush.org. We have our Paint and Sip fundraiser on Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. at 930 East 50th Street. It's $50. We're really doing everything we can to keep the doors open at Rainbow Push, and we need your help to make it happen. The Paint and Sip fundraiser. It's going to be fantastic. Lots of fun. Nice little noshes, something to drink, something to paint, and some great music. And it's going to be fun. Please come on, everybody, and please go to rainbowpush.org and go on and get registered for the Rainbow Push Convention. I hope that you will be there July 15th through the 19th. We're talking with Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers, who's really giving us really the background information. We have to understand the kind of fight that is still before the two Justins in the Tennessee State House of Representatives. The Tennessee Three are still at risk, as is everyone who is holding elective office on the state level, because now, with this supermajority, with the GOP, and like you just said, Lakeisha Myers, state representative, Democrats do it too, abuse power. What they will do, they can, for whatever reason, for no reason at all, they can decide to impeach, otherwise tie up, the new Supreme Court justice who was just elected in Wisconsin. I mean, you got to look at what's happening with these supermajorities. This is a big deal. Right now, state representatives Justin Pearson and Justin Jones do not have their full credentials. They cannot fully move around the Capitol in Tennessee. They cannot get committee assignments. They can't get money to their constituents, or two of the blackest districts in the state. Yeah, they have another fight on their hands. And Justin Jones' lawyer is the former U.S. Attorney General. Yep, they had to lawyer up. So they need you to contribute to those funds. Please contribute to their campaigns. So they got to pay for all of this. They must pay. They must. And if they don't get lawyers, they will not have full access to their seats, which means that people will not be fully represented, which means the Democratic Party will come up with some people to run against them because they need to be represented because these people are not working hard enough. No, that's not true. They've been blocked. And this should be a national issue that the party raises about the blocking of Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Call me at 773-763-9278. Attorney Darrell Jones, this has got to be a national issue, because when I found out that they didn't have committee assignments, I said, whoa, hold on, what's up?
Yeah, good morning, Santita. You're absolutely right. It is a national issue. We look at Tennessee and what's happening there, but, Tennessee really doesn't operate in an asylum, right? It really is manifested all over the country in different states as to what happens. And, every state has its own process for expulsion and for readmittance and what can happen. The one thing that is consistent from state to state is, as Representative Myers was saying, is that, your committee assignments aren't permanent. That is, leadership can come in at any point in time and reassign you from your committee for, particularly for acts that you're taking that they don't care for. You call it a punishment, if you will. The one thing that is really interesting, I think, from the conversation we have today, and I go back to one of my political family members, I call it my political family, used to always say to me, remember, Daryl, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. And that's one of the things, I've always stuck to, is that, whether it's Democrat or Republican, the question is, what is the interest that you have right now? Because they may or may not be on your side. You have to be able to align your ducks up in a row as to what it is that you're headed for. So when we're dealing with the Justins and their situation, both Pearson as well as Jones, one of the things that we have to look at is, what are their permanent interests? Where are people lining up? One of the things that we heard is that there's some Republicans that perhaps didn't want to expel them, but because of leadership, they felt as though they had to walk the line that leadership was laying out because they were concerned that they would probably be removed from their committees, concerned that they wouldn't get legislation through, concerned that they wouldn't get projects in their district. All those things are very real within the political world. That's the power structure from which they operate. Now, I was so pleased when Brother Kyles indicated that Representative Hardaway in Tennessee is working with the two Justins because they're new to the legislative process. So they went to someone who is established and knows the lay of the land to work with them to try to avoid some of the landmines and try to get them reestablished to their committees and everything else that's in place. And then lawyering up with Eric Holder was just a brilliant move to be certain that you not only have a brilliant mind, but you also have someone with national exposure bringing the light to this situation so that everyone can see what's happening. So yeah, it is a national issue. We need to be certain that we use this and we watch this because this can be a teachable moment for elected officials that are all through this country when they're facing similar situations, as I believe they will be coming to head as we move forward. So I'm really pleased to see what is happening with regards to how they're moving. I'm very concerned right now with what's going to happen with these committee assignments. And I think that if we keep that light on them, we keep the pressure on them, that we'll get them reappointed to their committees, and they won't get these lower committee assignments rather than the more meat-worthy and noteworthy committee assignments, Santita.
Well, Attorney Jones, and Dwight McKay, I hope they take it to the wall so you can really understand how politics works. We need to understand how this works, what this is really about, what people face when they go into office is not what you think it is, and that's why we're talking about it here on the Santita Jackson Show. Call us at 773-763-9278. Dwight McKee, what do you see?
Well, you have to understand, you have to ask yourself the question, why would somebody spend $100 million for a seat that pays $200,000 a year? Or why would a man spend $50 million of his own money to take a job that's only going to pay him $250,000 a year? And the fact of the matter is, politics decides who get what, when, and for how long. And that one word in a legislation can change the course of billions and billions and billions of dollars in millions and millions and millions of destinies. So when you look at a situation like affirmative action, Bob Starks, they turn the word from black to minority. It was responsible for taking billions of dollars out of the black community and redistributing them into non-black communities, just that single word. This is a real fight about how resources are developed and divided. And one of the reasons that they have to make these young men an example in Tennessee is because they are a risk to the gun lobby, to the NRA, because they have a momentum now where people are really trying to press for these gun manufacturers to not have access to selling some guns. and be managed in their pursuit of billions and billions and billions of dollars, depending on what guns that they're allowed to manufacture and to sell and to whom. Just taking that from 16 years old to 22 years old is a market of millions of young white men usually who has a fetish to these guns, who would spend their Christmas money to buy these guns, who would no longer have access to buying these guns for another 8, 9, 10 years. And it's billions and billions and billions of dollars. These are high stakes, ladies and gentlemen. And voting gives you the right, or winning a position, a seat in the House, gives you the right to enter the fight. But it's not the fight. It gives you the right to put on the gloves. It gives you the right to put your gym shoes on. But it is not the fight. The fight starts when the bell rings. And it's going to go round for round. And you need two things. You need stamina and a good cut man. Because it's a brutal fight.
You know, Dwight, and to your point, Justin Pearson 2 years ago took on Big Oil because they were going to move a pipeline through his neighborhood. See, we have to look at the people who don't want him there. This is a little bit more than the gun lobby. There's a whole lot going on here. And progressives are under threat. So, I mean, Lakeisha Myers, I think, we have to look at people's records, right? And the folks who don't want them there, not just the gun lobby, not just Republicans, big letters, all caps, italics. This is a little bit more than the corporate media are telling you. It's a whole lot more.
Oh, absolutely. You do have to examine individuals' records. I think, past practice can dictate what you do and how you would vote and what you would feel about different issues that come up in the Capitol. I think that makes a big deal. It's not just about thoughts and feelings and how people articulate themselves and make you feel, but you have to look beyond that, because we have been easily snowed, by people who had a D behind their name. So that you have to go beyond that. It doesn't matter what the party affiliation is. It looks at what the practice is. I mean, we had a county sheriff here in Milwaukee for many, many years who ran as a Democrat, and probably one of the worst county sheriffs we've ever had, and that's David Clark. So, I mean,
Well, I mean, Fred Hampton was killed on the watch of Democrats. So, I mean,
there you go.
I'm sorry, Dr. King was killed on the watch of Democrats.
Absolutely.
So I'm just, I'm over that, y'all. I can't. But I know mess when I see it. And the thing is, you got to look at Big Oil. You got to look at Big Oil and the role they might be playing in keeping both of these guys, making them examples, Dwight. Making examples of them, because you want other people to look at them and say, if you do this, what's going to happen to you, instead of, well, what's going to happen to you. I mean, really, that's what we're looking at, Dwight.
That's exactly what you're looking at, is that you want to make them an example of who not to be. The other people who may see themselves, for some reason, as not toward the party line. And these interests is crucial for these interests to keep these guys in line. Because one guy out of line can take the whole, much of that industry down, or deals that they set up that can be really, really, really ambushed by a single legislator who's out of control, in their minds out of control. So you must make examples out of these people. And Fred Hampton was not just killed on the watch of Democrats. Fred Hampton was killed by the Democrats. Hanrahan was a Democrat.
Who was Hanrahan, for the people who don't know?
Hanrahan was who led the raid against Fred Hampton, who ended up running for mayor as a Democrat. He was a state's attorney. He was a Democrat.
Ed Hanrahan.
Who put that piece together to kill Fred Hampton.
At the behest of the FBI. I mean, you got to look, everybody, you all have to look at all of this stuff. You have to look at all of it, and you have to start thinking, you have to start asking, when I look at a Justin Pearson, when I look at a Justin Jones, and when I look at Gloria Johnson, because you know what, State Representative Myers, I don't want us to give State Representative Johnson the short shrift, because she kept her office by one vote. She knew that she could get expelled too, and she came perilously close to getting thrown out. And she will tell you, being a white woman gave me some cover, not complete. I don't know what she's dealing with up there. And I'm sure she's dealing with some blowback.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Would you not agree?
Because she has been a consistent ally to the two Justice. She has been consistent. She went to Memphis when they had the reinstatement hearing in Memphis and the other in Nashville. So, she has not left the fight, but is using, in other words, using her whiteness to even continue to draw attention to the plight of the other two members, which is something that has to be commended. That's why, it goes back to what Reverend Jackson always taught us about having to have everybody at the table and not just focusing on doing it by ourselves, because you still need some good white folks to help you to bring light to certain situations, even in places where we can't get camera coverage. They would follow it because it's like, well, it wasn't just the two black members. It was Gloria as well.
It never is. You can have some of the most progressive people who are black and some of the most progressive people who are white. Let me tell you, I worked for Gus Savage when I was in college. Oh, girl. Yeah. I mean, come on. I worked for him. And I was back in the office and Deputy... No, they don't. Deputy Governor Luanner Peters was his chief of staff. Oh, no,
well, I just get out of line or be made an example of.
Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you, this man who was fixing the phones in the office, I went in the back office because I was in the front, and he was an older white gentleman, and he looked at me, and we were talking about my friend Candace, God rest her soul. We had just come from a Black Caucus meeting, and of course they went into executive session, which meant that we had to leave. You know that drill. And because they were having a fight. Which there were a disagreement, and that's all there was to it. It got real testy before we left, and I knew what the fight was about. Whatever. And my friend and I were talking about it, and it was like, whew, wow, what a mess. And this man just looked at us, and he said, and in a thick Southern accent, he said, it was a Virginia drawl, and I'm familiar with that because my mother's from Virginia. And he said, young ladies, let me just share something with you. I've been working up on this hill near about 30 years. He said, and I want you to know I've heard a lot of things as I work in this office. He said, because I just repair the phones. No one thinks I'm anybody. Ooh, when he said that, it just pierced me in my heart. He said, but I hear a lot. He said, and I want you to know this. Every white man's not your enemy, and every black man's not your friend. I said, amen, sir. I already know this. And I think we need to be clear on that. And start advocating for yourself. Start advocating for yourselves. I've got about 4 minutes for everybody, and we're going to have to get out of here. 1 minute for you, and I do mean 1 minute. When you hear my voice, it means I gotta move on to the next person. Attorney Jones.
Thanks so much, Santita. Santita, the one thing I want people to take away this morning is this information with regards to the power. In Tennessee, there are 99 legislators that make up their House of Representatives. 60 of them had no last November. There were no competitive House races. There was not one seat that flipped from one party to the other. I say that to lift up this point, that the power that's there is the power that's going to remain, and they use gerrymandering to certainly hold that power. We have a Supreme Court that's getting ready to do an independent state legislative theory, which gives the House Representatives sole control to determine legislative districts, to tighten the reins so they can control and do what they want to do in those legislative seats. That's one of the things that we got to pick up, we got to lift up and understand as we're dealing with Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, because that's part of that power structure that we're talking about, putting people in their place, knowing that you don't have to face opposition in an election.
Absolutely.
That's what I want us to remember, Cynthia.
Dr. Starks, 1 minute.
Okay, I just want to underline what the attorney just said. That is, remember, Tennessee is one of the most gerrymandered states in the Union. Secondly, the state of Tennessee has no African-American statewide elected officials, period. And lastly, we have to look at the court structure. It is excellent that we have Attorney Holder as one of the lawyers in the case, but look at the federal structure. This case may have to go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, because remember, the district courts, in the federal court system is gerrymandered as per Trump. So it may be stymied at the district level, federal district level, and it may have to go all the way to the Supreme Court. So this may last for years as opposed to months.
Well, Trump and McConnell, because remember, McConnell was blocked Supreme Court appointments. I mean, this mess didn't start with Trump.
Is true.
This mess has been going on a long time, a long, long time. Dwight McKee, 1 minute.
Well, we have to understand how important legislation is, that one sentence could change the destiny of millions. All you have to look at, for an example, is the 13th Amendment, where the clause says that slavery is prohibited except those in prison. It single-handedly created the prison industrial complex and changed the destiny of millions and millions of black men over the last 200 years. This is very, very, very just to understand the power of legislation. That's why you need to get involved in that process, because whether or not it affects your life day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute.
State Representative Lakeisha Myers, the last 90 seconds belong to you.
I would say that politics in itself is a contact sport. We can no longer afford to just vote and not pay attention to what happens after we elect individuals to office. The vote is just the first part of it. You have to be educated on the issue. You can do that by joining organizations and becoming well-informed and involved. There's the Transformative Justice Coalition, there's the NAACP, there's Rainbow Push. We have to become not just sideline characters in an ever-evolving fairy tale that is happening. And for people that are running for office, I say understand the full scope of what it is that you're trying to enter and realize that the surface is more than what's there. It's more than what meets the eye, and we have to stay woke.
That's why, I think this is Dr. Starks, put this on the table. This needs to be, as we go, I want you all to stay with me just for a few minutes on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We need to have Dwight McKee. This needs to be Attorney Jones. This needs to be a workshop at the convention, don't you think? So people understand how politics, you need to understand how it works and why you need to be involved all the time. Don't be too busy to take care of your business. Remember that, everybody. I love you. Thank you, Devin, for a great show. Thank you all for calling. We're going to stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and Santita Jackson and friends going to get some closing thoughts from this brilliant panel. God bless you, everybody. Have a great one. July 15th through the 19th, the Rainbow Push International Convention. You'll be getting this talk and more. Stay right there, everybody. All righty. So, Lakeisha Myers, do you think it would be helpful if we all knew just this backstory?
Absolutely. I think that's a part of it, and I think it's a responsibility for long-standing organizations when they talk about, raising candidates, like you talked about with Brandon Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And, the training that TJC does, God bless Daryl and Yolanda and the folks over there, they do a lot with trying to teach folks political process, because you'd be surprised what folks don't know or don't remember from school, because they've been exposed to it just on a surface level and not really to the point of engagement. But I think especially when it comes to candidates and people that say, oh, you have a good speaking voice, I think you make a good council member or whatever it is. It's more than that. Do you prepare these people and equip them with community backing and money? Because it's not just enough to have a vote. You got to have some money to go with it to understand how the investment in a candidate goes further. So I think that plays a big part. And we have to start doing that in growing some of our own candidates. We have to.
And you know what I think, honestly, I think that you all need to be paid much, much more. Because it would also, number one, give you some comfort. And comfortable people, that's why so many wealthy people are in politics. Comfortable people have what they call the go to HE double hockey sticks money, to put it politely.
Mm-hmm.
You need that.
Yeah.
I mean, taking a vow of poverty makes you too vulnerable. That's the craziest thing ever. And it lets you know that this system is designed for wealthy people. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything else to say? I hear something in the background.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to say that, it's disgusting that civics in schools has been not really taught the way it was 20, 30 years ago. That's one thing that needs to be emphasized in state legislatures and elsewhere. The second part of that is not only teaching the actual written philosophy of what's going on in politics in the civics classes, but looking at it from the practical, day-to-day, behind-the-scenes operations that State Representative Myers has just outlined, because otherwise people think of it as some great thing that all you have to do is go here or there and everything is okay. You don't have to raise money. People don't know that. So that's such an important part of this whole process that has to be emphasized for our young people who may desire to go into politics and be elected to office, etc.
Well, I mean, Daryl, what do you say? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm in complete agreement that, certainly, we got to teach up our folks so that, if they're interested in going into elected politics, that they have some framework, some knowledge, some working basis from which they can then move forward. So, I'm in complete agreement with what was being laid out, in that piece. We've got a lot to do. I mean, Dr. Starks was right on it. We've got a lot to do, and God bless folks like Representative Myers who are willing to get into the fray and teach and learn, because it's a large part of what's needed.
And I think the important thing is we have to look at and separate.
Okay, wait a minute. I can hear something in the background, everybody. Okay, thank you.
It's like a tea kettle.
It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. We have to teach government as well as politics and the relationship between the two. And that is why I am so pleased at the lesson that was taught on this program this morning by Representative Myers. And unfortunately, I've got to run.
No, sending you so much love, and thank you, because I know that this was a lot.
Santita.
No, thank you. Thank you. Dwight McKee, your thoughts?
Yeah, we have to understand that democracy is a civilized alternative to war. And so that if we see it in that perspective, we know that we really come to battle. We just don't bring weapons. We bring logic. We bring reason. We even bring pressure. We just leave the weapons behind. But once you take everything else off the table, the only thing you have left are the weapons. And we really don't need to go back to that. And so it's very important us to be vigilant and understand what the stakes are and to be involved. Because, again, you're dealing with both dollars and destinies.
Unfortunately, Dwight, we are, in many cases, invited to the dinner only to understand, once we get to the dinner, that we are the meal. Yeah. And with that, I will leave. Bye.
Absolutely. But, you know, I think it would be nice if you could say, you know, because I hear us say often, you know, I want someone who looks like me in there. I'm like, honey, maybe because my father started taking us to editorial board meetings when I was a very little girl, and it was always the black person who we marched to get hired. My father would lean over to us and say, he has been sent here to take me out. Watch him. Watch what he's going to do. He's going to be the one who's going to attack me here. And he would just say it. And Dwight, it would, without fail, that was it. That's why I'm like, wait a minute, y'all. I can't do this. You know, I have to go, what did you say? This election was more ideological than anything else? I have to go on that. Where would we be, Dwight, without Dave Wallace and Gary Massoni and Frank Watkins? Where would we be? All white men? You will not out. They are absolute freedom fighters. Absolute freedom fighters. Outlasted just about, Frank Watkins outlasted anyone on his staff except Aunt Lucille, who passed away. She worked years past retirement. Just, you know, come on. Let's grow up in our politics. Grow up in the politics. Because Dwight, I mean, I think that we need to have this conversation at the convention, so people need to understand how this thing really, really works. So when you see your congressman, when you see your state representative, your state senator, and all of these people who run for office constantly raising money, this is why. They got to have the money so they can do the job. Getting elected is, you get up in there. I know Mary-elect Johnson's eyes are like, what have I gotten myself into? Oh, yeah. Because it's all the people who were against him met him at the door. Oh, yeah. The whole conversation with him has to change now because he's the mayor-elect. So he's going to have some friends he's never seen before. Some people who were his political foes 2 weeks ago. That is the way it works, y'all. That's why I said, whatever you do, great guy, great principles, but now's the time for you to push him because other people are pulling him. If you don't do it, you're going to get just what you deserve, nothing. You'll get empty talk and nothing else. Because that's how that works, right, Dwight?
And I know there are millions of women who are scratching their heads because one antiquated judge changed their lives in a single rendering of an opinion. And they never saw it coming.
Never.
Never saw it.
Never.
And so it's that's why I see it to be ever vigilant. Is that when they thought that many of them thought that they were voting for these guys based on law and order, and saw themselves voting to hold down, to give themselves a advantage politically, giving these conservative judges access to make decisions that they thought was only affecting us, now find out that when you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. And these same conservative judges are making decisions that totally affect and rearrange their lives. It's about self-interest, ideology, and good or bad will. This thing is. And until you understand who's interested, you're always at a disadvantage.
Well, we have to, I think this is a workshop, because people need to understand how politics works. Got to understand it. If you don't understand this part, oh boy, you are in for you'll be crying all the time. You need to understand this. Understand it. Understand it. Understand that now the fight for the Justins has begun. Now, and the fight always occurs, Dwight, in darkness. Once the cameras go off, this is it. Then they'll come back in a few months or another year or two and talk about how ineffective they were. And you don't even know the inner workings, how the system is designed to grind you up if you don't align yourself with the corporatocracy. I mean, that's what it's designed to do. That's why you have to look at Justin Pearson going up against Big Oil. Do you think that they want him back in that seat? Think about that, everybody. They do not want him back in that seat. That's why I'm up so late and up so early, because I'll hear something, I'll see something that makes me, Dwight, that makes me dig and go, wait a minute. Didn't someone mention? Well, let me confirm it and go, oh, okay. So yeah, this did happen. Okay, I got it. Okay. He came up against Big Oil. So Big Oil is his foe. The gun lobby is his foe. He got a lot of money that has his expulsion as a number one interest, because they need that vote. Oh yeah, and they can get them a Democrat who will align themselves with him. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. Dwight, do you have anything you want to say before we go?
Assalamu alaikum.
Well, as Gregory Elias would say, don't eat ham, cheese, or bacon. Bless your heart. I love you all. It's been a great day. I hope that you got something good out of the show today, and I hope that you will join us, Robert and Dave and Norma Jean and Jewel, at the convention this summer, July 15th through the 19th. July 15th through the 19th. I'm going to have a birthday in the middle of that somewhere. But, we have to get through the convention before I celebrate it, because we got to get through the convention. But I want you to be there. It's going to be a great convention with you, and we're going to get some information to you, because that is what you need. You need information. You need that. You need it. And we're going to give it to you.
And
so
remember that the only thing that beats a plan is a better plan.
What'd you say, Dwight?
The only thing that beats a plan is a better plan.
So we got to come up with a plan. Is that it? The better plan. Because many of us thinking about the plan. You got to start acting and stop reacting. You got to start acting. Don't just react. Okay? We gotta do this differently, everybody. So I'm sending you, hey, that's right, cancel of July 17. Boomity boom. That's right, all right. So, well, Mike, what is your solution? Give it to me real quick. The benefits today, fifth floor, Chicago. That's right. But you're going to have to, like I said, we have to have a plan. We have to decide what it is that we want Mayor Brandon Johnson to do and push him to do it. Does not make him a bad guy. But you need to function with the understanding of what he now has to deal with. It's a different world for him. Dwight, because he is now the mayor, and he's the mayor of the whole city. The people who voted against him, he's their mayor too. So think about that. Your birthday's July 9, Norma Jean. Go girl, go girl. Ooh. Have all these July babies. I love it. So, but think about that, everybody. Think about that. I'm going to get on out of here. I love you. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow, Lord willing, on the Santita Jackson Show. We're going to get on out of here, do some things. What did you say? Dwight, quote, put fire out with water. That's right, Jewel. Dwight, you got to start following these chat lines. Folks have a lot of things to say to you, and he's not on the chat line, everybody, so that's why he's not replying. So I have to read them. So, I love you, Jerry Patton. Love you, Jerry. Love you, sweetie. All right, everybody, I am out of here. Love you, Norma Jean, my Cancer sister, and love you, Jewel, my New York sister. I love you, Dave Dowling. Love you, Linear Bob. Love y'all. Love you, Carol. Love you, Effie. Love y'all. I love everybody. And thank you for being with us. You make this thing work. Love you, love you, love you. God bless you. See you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.